Welcome to this week's Who the Folk podcast. I'm Lonnie Goldsmith, the editor of TC Jewfolk. This week I sit down with Jon Halper, the owner of the top 10 liquor stores across the Twin Cities metro area. We talk about the exciting new Wineside concept opening in Minnetonka this year, the challenges his industry faces, and the trends to be on the lookout for on this week's Who the Folk podcast. Jon Halper, welcome to the Who the Folk podcast. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for inviting me. Great to be here.
It's great to talk to you again. It's been a while. Jewfolk had worked with you in Top 10, particularly the St. Louis Park store, several years ago with some beer and wine tastings around Passover and around Purim. But it is good to chat again. So the owner of Top 10 Liquors, actually, full disclosure, it is my nearest liquor store, just down the street from me in Plymouth, where I live.
Excellent.
Your newer store up there. I'm a fan. I like popping in there. What was it that got you into this business?
Well, the brief story is I'm originally a corporate attorney, started practicing in New York, moved back with my wife to Minneapolis, and sort of launched my way from law into a retail career, spent time different places. And ultimately, I wanted to find a business that I could be passionate about and use all of my skills. And I found 4 liquor stores and worked to get to know the owner, build a relationship, and eventually bought the 4 stores. And now we've grown to 12 stores at the beginning of this year and plan to add 2 or 3 additional units this year.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So are you from Minnesota originally, or did you do the classic Minnesota story where you followed the wife, you met her somewhere else, and then you followed her back here?
It's a little bit of the opposite. So I grew up in Minneapolis. Yeah, I grew up in Minneapolis, actually left here to go to high school and college in California. Met my wife at Hebrew University, our junior year of college.
Okay.
And she actually asked me out, which she always likes, to make sure that I include in any story when we're talking about it.
Excellent.
And we both came back, and I was at UC San Diego, and she was at a all women's university called Wheaton College just outside of Boston. And I applied to law school, ended up going in Boston to law school, and eventually brought her to Minneapolis.
Okay.
So a little bit different than most.
What was it that sort of brought you out of corporate law? Was it burnout? Were you just tired of leading that kind of lifestyle? What was it that brought you that you wanted to get into retail?
I think it's that I'm a lot more entrepreneurial in my DNA than most lawyers are. And I enjoyed the practice of law, but at the end of it all, I really wanted to be the person running the business rather than being the lawyer supporting the business, and worked my way. Actually, I started at Wilson's Leather doing all of the real estate, which was a very easy transition from law into the retail world, kind of using natural skills that I had as a lawyer, negotiating new stores and things like that. And it really helped me transition from law to retail.
What area of law were you practicing?
I was a corporate attorney.
Okay.
Mergers, acquisitions, things like that.
Got it. Okay. But yeah, so I would think that there are certain elements of that skill in that world that certainly translate into what you're doing now in terms of finding new locations to move into, building out locations, that sort of the negotiation skills that might come from that.
Legal training really is amazing training. And my daughter's actually in law school now, and I tell her the same thing. It teaches you a way of thinking, a way of analyzing, a way of approaching different issues that you can apply to many, many different things in this world. And it definitely serves me well in the retail world.
And I know several people who went to law school and started practicing and are now doing things in other fields, but there's the skill set learned from it, like you say.
My parents like to tease me that I went to law school, I was a lawyer, and now I own liquor stores. But
Well, The joke is that the law that drove you to drink, but
That's right. That's right. I went from one bar to another.
there we go. There you go. So speaking of bars, one of the new, I assume this is one of the two or three new locations that you're talking about. Sort of the biggest news is sometime soon, hopefully the spring. Well, I say hopefully for you. At least
more realistically, it'll be late summer.
Okay.
The supply chain issue makes speed difficult right now.
Oh, I'm sure. Is the opening of Wineside, what most people will probably remember as the Champs location in right by Ridgedale in Minnetonka. What is the Wineside concept, and where did this idea come to you from?
So Wineside is a combination of a wine bar where we're going to have over 100 different wines for people to sample and have by the glass.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a more boutique-ish grocery where you're going to be able to get amazing products, more limited in scope, but amazing product.
Okay.
We'll have food to accompany the wine bar. And then it'll be a full liquor store as well attached to that. It's sort of the bringing together many socializing concepts into one.
And where did the idea for, I mean, it sounds amazing, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, where did the idea for doing that? I mean, this sort of, obviously the classic liquor store sort of is what it is, but this sort of takes the concept in a bit of a different direction.
Totally. So the concept of Wineside really originated several years ago. My family and I, along with friends, were on vacation in the Caribbean, and we were going to dinner, and before we ran into this wine bar, and they had these machines that were preservation systems for wine, and you took your card that they gave you. Well, you put your credit card down, you got a card, and you could go up and put your card on each of the different machines, and you could get a 1 ounce pour of a whole bunch of different wines and try them. And we had a ton of fun as a family doing it. Everybody was running around and trying different wines and enjoying the experience. And, hey, I tried this, come over, try, and by the end of it, each of us had 7 or 8 different wines, and it was just a really fun experience. And I parked that in the back of my mind and said, someday I might want to open a concept like that. And about a year ago now, a distributor that we worked with had the supplier of these machines coming to town randomly reached out to me and said, hey, any interest in meeting with this guy? And I'm like, oh my God, that's crazy. So we met with one of a couple companies that has this type of technology. And, within 3 months, we were beginning to network with the Minnetonka City Council to get our concept approved. So it was just, once we found that, and I knew what that experience was like, and I also, obviously, as a liquor store operator, had the ability to bring that into the fold, it all just kind of fell in place, and it was just really exciting to have all those elements come together.
So this isn't going to be like a typical bar then, where a bartender is going to pour. You can go select and it'll automatically dispense your pour.
That's correct. So mostly around the perimeter of the store, there are different preservation machines. Mm-hmm. And we're trying to develop an app now, so it'll all be app activated, where you'll go up to the machine and scan a QR code, and then you'll get a pour. You can do a 1 ounce pour, a 2.5 ounce pour, or a glass of wine, and you're going to be able to try many different wines. So people are going to be able to have the same type of experience we did. So think about you come in and you love cabs, but you drink the same couple. We may have 15 different cabs that you have the ability to try. One may be from France, another may be from Napa or Sonoma. So now you've got the ability to compare and contrast and really learn about wine. And we're going to have staff that'll help you through your journey. So they'll have knowledge on the different wines and they can help guide you, or you'll have the ability to do it by yourself.
That's fascinating. I know there's a tap room at sort of the University in 280 area where it's a similar
Yeah.
sort of concept where they have vending machines sort of cheapens it, but the pour systems where you can pick the type of beer you want. And so I know
mostly for beer, it's not based on tasting, it's based on getting full glasses. And certainly we expect some of our customers just to want to go get a glass of wine and sit down and enjoy that glass. But we think the prevalent experience will be people who are interested in trying 4 or 5 different wines, an ounce each, and then maybe getting a glass of their favorite.
Is this the type of concept you can see taking off in other markets?
Well, we would hope.
Okay.
Opening one's a lot of work.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
And if we have one and it's really successful, it'll be worth every ounce of the work. But if we have the ability to have multiple locations of this, perhaps in other states, we would be pretty excited about that as well.
What is it that makes the Twin Cities market the right place to try something like this, other than the fact that this is home for you? And besides all of that stuff.
Now you're going to get me into some, and I'm happy to have these conversations, but some more challenging conversations because, the liquor laws in Minnesota are very constraining. And it's actually harder to do this in Minnesota than it probably is in several other states because we have requirements about how much food we have to sell. We're not able to integrate our liquor store into our wine bar, into our grocery. We have to have, separations. So Minnesota is a more challenging environment for us to be able to do it. But, as you and I talked about earlier, everybody knows the Champs spot at Ridgedale. Ridgedale's an amazing shopping mall. It brings in lots of traffic. The center we're going into has amazing parking for customers. Of the spaces you could go in the area, it probably has the easiest in-out access of anywhere you could go. And it has a really great cross-section of population and population density to be able to drive the traffic, both people that live in the area as well as people that work in the area. It's also centrally located off 394, so it's really easy for people to get to. Yeah. So, is Minnesota, outside of the fact that I live here, the perfect place for it? Yeah, there's some challenges that we're working really hard to make sure that we're compliant with. But at the same time, I'm excited to do it in that area. The city's been great to work with. And I think it'll be, I don't know that other cities have better space than where we're going. I think we found a pretty amazing space for our first location.
You have to build 3 different entrances, like one for the food, one for the wine, and one for the liquor store? Or is it just, can the wine and food be combined into one space?
The wine and food will be more one location. Okay. So we're building a vestibule entrance, and if you go straight, you're going to be able to get into the top 10 liquors. And if you go to the right, you'll be able to go into Wineside.
It's been a while since I've been in there, so I'm like, you're saying where you're going to go, and I'm sort of trying to close my eyes and picture. I understand. Yeah.
You can't even picture the Champ spot anymore because if you remember, it was multi levels and everything else.
Yeah, there's it's random step ups and step downs.
It's all one level now, so it's been graded and gutted so that when we take over for our construction. It's one level spot. It's pretty spectacular when you look at it now and what we're going to be able to do there.
I'm sure it looks completely different. It's been, I don't know, at least, it was pre-pandemic that it closed. It's been a few years, I'm sure, since I've been in there. But
Correct.
So when you're picking locations for your top 10s, obviously, like I said, the one in Plymouth opened not all that long ago. I don't even remember what was in there anymore. And that's fine. It just sort of popped up one day and I'm like, oh, this is fun. I know, John, this is down the street from me. This is great. But what are you looking for in terms of a type of location when you're looking to expand? Like you said, there might be a couple others this year that you're looking at growing into.
Yeah. We definitely like communities that are higher traffic. Mm-hmm. I would say that our favorite is to go by grocery because they have a number of visits per year that exceeds just about any type of concept, except maybe a Starbucks or something like that. So when you buy grocery, you've got people who are frequently coming. You're convenient to them. They're definitely willing to pop in and make a purchase as part of that experience. So that's definitely a factor for us. I'm unique in this, but I like competition. So I like trying to be in the vicinity of the big national competitors like Costco or Target or Total Wine. I think our model is unique and we compete very well with them. And typically they all pick really impactful areas as well. So, we like to be in those types of traffic areas.
And I know it's funny you say that you like being in those areas. Obviously, they bring more traffic, but you don't shy from the competition.
I love competition. I think it's great. I really do. I mean, we work very hard, and we sort of have our how we feel we differentiate our business from others. And so when you're in the thick of it, you have the opportunity to demonstrate that to your customers and to grow your business through that. So one of the things we do is we focus on great product at a value. So, we really work hard, whether it's a national brand at an ultra competitive price or my buying team, really focusing on finding amazing product that you don't find everywhere else. But we really focus on that product side of it. But we also invest heavily in our staff from a training perspective with the goal of meeting every customer in the aisle. And so when you have great product, you price it right, and you've got staff trained to meet people and help them through that experience, it allows us to compete with everybody.
And I know as a consumer, I'm not a big wine drinker. I'm one of the people that picks by the label. So, that's probably, that's more where I go there. But like with beers, like I know what types I like, and sometimes having, it's nice to have somebody who can say, oh, if you like this, then you might like that, and, try something new. And it usually is paid off. So it's always nice to have people who know what they're talking about.
Yeah. And I think that's really important. I mean, and let me speak to the wine section, because I think beer is the same way, but most customers come into the wine section and they know if they want a white wine or a red wine typically, but they don't know a lot more. And they walk into this section that has 2,000 different bottles, and it's intimidating. So as we train our staff to meet you and help you through that experience, one of our goals is to take your attention away when you go through that experience.
It's incredibly intimidating to walk through something like that, and you're staring at all these bottles and you're like, okay, now what?
Right. It's like when you go to, a nice Italian restaurant or a French restaurant, and you go look at their wine menu and you can barely pronounce half the items on the menu, let alone you got to figure out what to order.
Right.
And when you have somebody there to help you through that experience, it really can make a huge difference. Now that's been tough the last couple of years, because between COVID and labor shortages, it definitely is more challenging from a business perspective to be able to do that. But, we're constantly working to find people, and, for any of our employees, any class they take, particularly if it's wine or beer or spirits related, if they successfully pass the course, we compensate them twice the amount of the test, really to not only help them, but really emphasize the importance of product knowledge in our team, so that they're able to provide you with really great information. Most of them know far more than I do about the product.
Well, I mean, it's good. It's good. You're in a customer service business. You want to have people who, it benefits you as a business owner if you have people who know a lot about the product that they're trying to sell, and are extremely knowledgeable in it. Like otherwise, what are you doing? Right.
Well, not only that, but they also want to learn more. And that's part of it. It's probably one of those romance industries as well. And, people love the experience, and the more they get to sample And the more they get to learn about the product, the more excited they are as well about working with us. So it's really, it's great. It's been tough the last couple of years, but it seems like we're getting a lot of really talented people right now, and we're very excited about that.
Excellent. Is there a trend either in the industry or just sort of the, beer, wine, spirits in general that's coming around that people should know about?
Well, I mean, certainly everybody's sort of lived through the seltzer ready to drink trend that's been going on over the last couple of years, White Claw and all that. And,
yeah.
And that whole branch continues to evolve. The number of products coming out is overwhelming for us to sort through. It's overwhelming for customers to understand it. But there are some, the ready to drink category, especially as they work more on the spirit side of it than other ways of producing those products. There's a lot of good stuff coming in. I think people that want that, I'm on the boat and I just want to open a can and drink it will be very, very pleased.
Okay.
We've sort of heard about it for a long time, and we know that the bourbons and the browns continue to be very popular and continue to grow. Tequilas have been another area, and lots of people are falling in love with different gins right now. So those are all areas where people continue to explore the spirit side, which is a lot of fun. And I was just at a wine show in New York over the last couple of days, and there's a lot of buzz about whites for wine.
Really?
So, the Sauv Blancs, the Chardonnays, the Pinot Grigios, areas like that, there definitely is a lot of movement in that area. And it seems to be, we hear a lot about the younger generation doesn't want to drink wine, but I have to tell you that we're seeing a lot of that generation, particularly the people who are the craft beer drinkers, start to work their way to wine. And it's definitely being driven by a lot of the whites right now.
That's really interesting. I really, I do still love the craft beers. Especially being in Minnesota, there's so many good local breweries doing such a good job with it. But the one thing I've sort of gotten tired of drinking a lot of IPAs, though. I know that's a very Minnesota, it becomes sort of the Minnesota beer. Their style of brewing is the IPAs, but I enjoy the taste of the beer, and to have something that's like super hoppy that sort of, burns the taste buds off. I'm not really interested in that. I like tasting the drink.
But you've never gone the wine direction.
Not yet. I don't not like wine. I just don't really know what I'm looking for in wines.
Yep. And wine's also tough right now because there's just been so many environmental issues that have impacted wine, whether it's the Napa fires or other areas like that, or temperature issues in Europe that have really limited the crop of grapes over the last couple of years, which, along with many other factors, are causing a lot of the inflation in prices right now, as well as supply chain issues.
I have a high school friend who owns a winery in Napa, and every year, the last several years, keep seeing these Facebook pictures of the haze and the smoke in the air and the fire. Like, I think her home and her vineyard has been okay, but it's awfully close. A lot of those fires, and I can imagine what it's doing to the industry.
Well, in 2020, virtually all of Napa wine was wiped out by fires.
Oh.
And so, when you look at, a lot of the U.S. cabs come from Napa. Mm-hmm. So there's going to be a lot of impact. And this is probably the mid to higher tier wines that are most heavily impacted by it. But you basically wiped away a whole vintage of wines. So it's, it's kind of, you're going to skip from 19s to your 21s, and that's just how it's going to be.
What's the lag on something like that in the industry in terms of, like, if it's the 2020 crop that gets wiped out, when would the 2020 vintage wines normally be in the store to buy? How does that work?
It varies.
Okay.
So like, let's start in the simplest form. The rosés that people are buying now are all 21 rosés. So we're starting to flow in 21 rosés. So like something like that is a very quick turnaround.
Okay.
A lot of the cabs, can be 2 to 3 years.
Oh, wow.
So, so the heavy impact on 20 will probably be this fall and much more into next year.
Okay.
So it's kind of, we're feeling it now. You feel it in the price on some of the 19s because, where they increase the price because maybe they got insurance proceeds, but they've got to make it through till their 21s are ready to go.
It's brutal.
It is brutal. It is brutal. And, we spent some time in California and, the fallout for them, all of a sudden the insurance companies don't want to insure their businesses anymore because the cost of those losses are staggering, but they know there's a pretty high likelihood there'll be more fires. I mean, California's had, issues. Oregon's had issues for a while now.
That heck of an industry to be in right now, I guess.
Wow. I mean, that's, the other side of it is really, the hardest part for me right now are the supply chain challenges and what's going on with prices in the industry. Because
I was going to ask if it's affected you in this area as much as like so many other people that I've talked to.
Very, very heavily. And I feel bad for customers because the breadth of the price increases right now are fairly massive. And, like over the last 60 days, as we get, for all of our items, we sort of see when our distributors have price changes, they highlight it on yellow on a form they send over to us. And, half the items have gone up in price. So it's going to be tough for everyone for a while.
And I would imagine that not just the supply chain issues there, but as gas gets more expensive and the distributors, I mean, they like that money's got to come back to the distributor somehow in the gas price increase. So that ends up getting passed on to you, which ends up getting passed on to the consumer.
That's exactly right. And that's sort of the next piece of it. We haven't even seen that impact yet.
Okay.
I mean, already, many of the suppliers have had bottle issues or cork issues or label issues or freight issues getting the product here. And that's led to many of the increases that we're seeing, as well as shortages on products. We have many items, some bourbons, certainly the tequila category, and other areas that have been heavily, heavily impacted by supply chain and are hard to get. And that's all before the war started and, fuel shot through the roof, and we haven't even seen the impact of that work its way in.
And by the time, I'm not sure when people will be hearing this, but that may be reflected by the time you hear this. But it is definitely it's definitely something you're certainly anticipating is going to happen, though.
Well, hopefully this all ends soon and the price of fuel gets back under control quickly. But I don't know that any of us see a quick end to this at this point.
Unfortunately, I'm not so sure about that. Well,
right.
We are very excited for Wineside to open. I think that's going to be a very innovative new addition to the area, and certainly excited to see how that sort of changes your business and where maybe things go outside of the traditional.
Well, we're excited for it. It'll be a lot of fun. Maybe we'll do some stuff with you guys there like we used to do in the old days.
That would be great. And by then, I think hopefully, knock on wood, we all feel comfortable getting out and doing things in person. I know it's about a little more than 2 years of this. I think we're all ready for this to be done.
I think we're ready for it to be done, or at least have a way of living with it where we can manage it to some extent and be out and live lives as normally as possible.
No, absolutely. Jon, last 2 questions, and we'll let you get on with your day. First, what is your favorite Jewish holiday?
My favorite Jewish holiday, that's a good question. I would say Rosh Hashanah. Okay. I love the family side of it. I love the food that attaches to it. My wife and I, for years and years and years, do big family gatherings surrounding it, and we spend days cooking and getting ready for it. makes us think about our grandparents and our great-grandparents. So I would say Rosh Hashanah.
Excellent. And what is your favorite Jewish food?
My favorite Jewish food, well, I would say bagel lox and cream cheese, without a doubt.
Hard to go wrong. It's classic.
And I was just in New York, so I just got great bagel lox and cream cheese. So I was very, very lucky.
Yeah, that does help, certainly, going out there to get
Yes.
it. Well,
Yes.
Jon Halper, thank you so much for joining me. We appreciate the time, certainly, and wish you the best of luck with your business going forward, and especially this year. It's a big year for you.
Thank you, Lonnie. I appreciate your having me today. Really thrilled that you guys asked me to, and let's stay in touch.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jon.
Take care. Bye.
The Who the Folk podcast is part of the Jew Folk Podcast Network, a product of Jew Folk Inc. Please subscribe, rate, and review the show wherever you get your podcasts. If you have suggestions for other podcast guests, please email them to me at editor@tcjewfolk.com. For our other shows, check out tcjewfolk.com/podcast.